Hi there, mathematicians. Today we're going to talk about 3D shapes, three-dimensional shapes. We're going to talk about what makes them 3D and what makes them what they are, and how are they different from 2D shapes or polygons. So as a reminder, last week we talked about some different polygons. And we talked about how a polygon is a flat shape that has straight sides and it has vertices and it's closed. One type of polygon we talked about were rectangles. They have four sides, and the opposite sides, sides that are across from each other, are the same length. So that's a rectangle. But believe it or not, that's a rectangle too, because it has four sides and the opposite sides are the same length. A square is a special kind of rectangle. That was one of the polygons we talked about. This piece of paper is actually a polygon. It's a 2D shape because it's flat, okay? I'm going to put it down like that where you can see it. Here's one other that we talked about. It was a rhombus. A rhombus also has four sides. So it's a quadrilateral, and all four sides are the same length. So that is a rhombus because every side of that was the same length. But that's also a rhombus. A square is a special type of rhombus. In a square, it just means that every corner makes an L, an L, an L. Makes what's called a right angle. Right angle. So squares is just a special type of rhombus. But again, this is a polygon and they were flat. They were flat shapes. So in here, I've got some 3D shapes. So let's just see what makes these different. So I've got this. And I've got, well, let's look at this one actually. So I have that, and I've got that. So maybe just look at these and see, how would you describe the difference between this and this? So here's a 2D square. How is this different? So I want you to just think about that. So here's the difference, and I wrote this new word in your geometry word bank. 3D shapes have faces. Faces. So it's like the flat side that I can rub my finger across. See how it's got faces. It's got a face on the top. It's got a face on the bottom. And it's got faces on the sides. Just like a polygon, though, it still has vertices. These little points called vertices. There's also this thing here called an edge. This kind of line across here where the two faces come together is called an edge. So that's how they're different. It has faces and edges. It's the same because it still has vertices. So this is a 3D shape that has 6 faces. We're going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every single face is an exact square, okay? Because all the sides of that are the same length. So if I turn it, that face is also a square. That face is also a square. That face is also a square. Every single side. This one has the same attributes. 6 faces. And every face is a square. Let's just ignore the number, but you can see that every face is a square. So think in your head, what is the name of this 3D shape? Probably no. It's called a cube. It's called a cube. One of the attributes of a cube is that it has 6 faces, and every face is a square. There's something different about this 3D shape. Okay, this is different. This one still has 6 faces. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Still has 6 faces, but it's not a cube, because remember that a cube had to have squares for the faces. These are not squares. So if I put it down like this, and we call this the bottom and this the top. I'm going to look at the top. Tell me, what polygon is that? It's a rectangle. And then look at the bottom. What polygon is that? That's also a rectangle, right? So this one is called a prism, a rectangular prism. A prism is a 3D shape that has a polygon on the bottom and a polygon at the top. The same polygon on top and bottom. So this one has the rectangle polygon on the bottom, a rectangle polygon on the top. So it's a rectangular prism. This is also a rectangular prism because even though one side of this is a square, the other faces, I meant to say the face of this is a square, the other faces are rectangles. So I'm actually going to put it that way and call that the bottom and that the top. It's like I took this rectangle and it went and it grew up to be 3D. So this is a rectangular prism. Rectangle, rectangle, faces, vertices, edges. So this is also a rectangular prism. Okay. Whoops, I'll just other prisms here. Okay, I'm going to take out another one. We're just going to learn some other names. So this one. Well, while I'm getting some of these out, I want you to just look around your room and see if you see anything that might be a cube or a rectangular prism. The cubes were a little harder for me to find, for it to be a perfect square on every side. Even things I thought were a cube, when I actually looked at it, it turned out that wasn't a square, it was a rectangle. Okay, so now I have this and this. So I'm just going to put some labels by some of these things. These ones were rectangular prisms. Rectangular prisms. Okay. These, though, this is a special, oh, I forgot to put this one, hold on. These were cubes. Okay. Cubes. These are a special type of prism. They've got actually it's not a prism, I'm sorry, because it's not a polygon at the top. This is a cylinder. A cylinder has a circle on the bottom and a circle on the top. But what's different about this shape is that it has a circle at the bottom. If that was flat and covered, it would be a circle on the bottom, but the top comes to a point. So that 3-dimensional shape is called a cone. Here's another cone-ish shaped item. It's not a perfect cone because it doesn't come all the way up, and this face has these holes in it, right? So it's definitely, and this isn't a perfect cone either. None of these are perfect, but they come close to that shape. Okay, so here's another cone. We've used this word before. It's not a ball or a circle, but the 3D shape, name of that is a sphere. S, and the PH sounds like f, and it's a bossy s, f, a sphere. Kind of fun to say. Sphere. Go outside and play base sphere or basket sphere. And then here's one last one that's out of Bruno's tank. And it's not perfect, but if it was flat across here, whoop, let me make sure you can see it. This would be a triangle. This would be a triangle. And this would be a triangle. So if it had a triangle top and a triangle bottom, but it was 3D, whoop, like it was a triangle that grew, it's called a triangular prism. A lot like the rectangular prism, but it's triangular prism because it's a triangle. Okay, so these are some 3D shapes. Now you have a job to do. In your student book, you have a page called Shape Walk. I would like you to find at least 2 shapes, either outside or in your house, that match up with each one of the shapes on the shape walk. So if it says rectangular prism, you're going to find at least 2 things that you can prove and show evidence for that it is a rectangular prism. There's a cone on there. I think there's a sphere on there. So I want you to find at least 2 for each section, maybe even more. You don't have to bring them all to your table. I don't want you taking any pictures off the wall or anything like that. But if you want to, you could bring them together as a 3D shape collection, and you could do labels like mine. Okay, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you find.